meeting to order for the City Hall Task Force meeting on May 9th, 2019. Roll call.
Fernando Alvarado.
Julie Osmus.
Mark Kelvin.
Ike Holland.
Kathy Schwantes. Okay. First of all, I want to say, yahoo! It's exciting to be in the second phase of this project, so thank you to everyone for your hard work and effort, for the good discussion that we had Monday night, and it's just nice to be moving forward. And I don't know what feedback you've all gotten from community members, but that's the number one thing I've heard is we're just glad you made a decision and you're moving on. So we have had roll call, so we'll just recognize the city planner. Sarah Swedberg is joining us, and Janelle Summers as well. So, okay. Update on the site. Mr. Howell.
Okay. So since Monday, I've had several conversations. The first one I'll say I had with Jared at Bolton and Mink, and I told him, that we were moving forward and that we need to look at some testing on that entire block. That would be interested in knowing about everything from hazmat to compaction rates and so forth. And so we had a nice discussion about that. And then the other thing I said, I know the council's going to want to know a couple things. Number one, when can we do it? Number two, how much is it going to cost? Number three, when are we going to get the results back? So he's working on that. So I gave that to him Tuesday. Today's Thursday. I haven't gotten that back yet. Then also, I got a phone call from the Nelson family who said that there had been someone trying to purchase that building before the Nelson Lawn Cleaners, before they demolished it, and so there was some borings done and a phase 1 and a phase 2 done, and so they asked if I wanted copies of that, and so I said yeah, and so they've sent that to me, which I've forwarded to Jared for his analysis of that. And then the next person I spoke to was Justin Paffrath, who has the listing on the Nelson's property. And so I met with him and discussed, what we're going to do, the process, and who can approve the purchase and so forth. And obviously that we would make any offer contingent upon the site being acceptable for our purposes. And so he's fine with that. And the next person I met with was the realtor for the Wodash property, and Doug Finstra, and I spoke with him and basically gave him the same story. Now, a couple things. The Nelson's property is listed at $100,000, and after talking with Doug, the Wodash property is $90,000. So previously it had been quoted to me as $100,000. So I told him, can I tell the mayor I get credit for knocking off that $10,000? And he said yes. So mayor,
Good job.
you
Way to
can
go.
buy me a Pepsi later. So there, one's at 100, the other's at 90. So right now, the next step for me, I wanted to find out a couple things. One, who does the task force, do they want me to continue with, working with the realtors and doing that negotiation, or is there someone else that you'd like to have do that? And then secondly, I'll follow back up with Bolton and Mink and get that information on the testing.
Thoughts in regard to the administrator following up with negotiations on the real estate?
I think that the administrator should do that. I mean, he was tasked with that at the council meeting. I mean,
Well,
to
we
get the
said
best
staff.
deal.
We said staff. So I just wanted to make sure.
Or are you thinking that maybe a different staff member should do it?
No, No, I'm glad to do it. I'm just wanting to, you know, reassurance that that's what the, you know, the task force wants me to do. So,
I would agree with that.
Okay.
Are you negotiating the purchase price and then coming back with the papers? Is that what we're asking them to do?
everything, yeah,
Yeah.
and then, of course, it's, you know, it's all contingent upon, you know, final approval from the council in the
Correct.
end. So anything that I propose, it's not the final, you know.
Right.
Okay.
And then it has to go to planning commission too, right?
It does, we'll have to do that, we'll have to put that in the process as well, so.
But I mean, are you doing those side by side?
I will, you know, get with, you know, Dave, and we're gonna get that on the, planning commission as soon as possible, so that, you know, we can get that proposed, so.
Do we wanna wait until we have a purchase price solidified and everything and pursuing Black
well, I
25 to put it on planning commission?
I-
That's what we've done traditionally,
Obviously,
going
I
the
would
opposite
say
direction,
that
but
you wanna have that, but I think we can do it, what I'm saying is, right now, we can start the process upon both. And then if one gets yanked, let's just say, you know, something goes haywire, you know, then we can pull it from the agenda.
okay. Because I mean, it could be as simple as I can throw it on the agenda for next week and just have them, because they don't have to pass a resolution or anything.
Let's,
But they don't approve the purchase price,
No.
they just
No,
approve
they
the site,
The
right?
site.
Yeah.
So if you,
They
usage,
just don't approve the site.
they could,
if
they
you
could.
want them to approve the site, I
They
can have them
can.
do that next week. We've
Okay.
talked about it.
Let's get that on
The past
the
couple
agenda for
times.
next week then.
Okay.
And I guess the only other thing is that, you know, some of the concerns that were brought up by the community were that, you know, and I'm sure you'll vet all of this, but, was the fact of what the assessed value was versus what the asking price is and all that. I think that those conversations have to happen probably too. I mean, you do that through your negotiation, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I will, you know, say that, you know, I talked to the realtors about that, and I talked about, you know, how did you come to that price? Do you have any formal appraisals? You know, I want copies of anything like that, and so, you know, I'll gather all that information.
So then, in theory, I'm just thinking out loud here, but, in theory, then, we could go into closed session on the 20th, if you have some answers.
I think, you know, we can have, real estate negotiations is allowable under a closed executive session, and so I would plan on that, on the 20th, having that, and so that I can, brief everybody on what I found out. And so if we wanna go higher or lower, whatever, you know, on the price. Yeah?
Because when we
Lower
were,
preferred.
sorry?
Lower preferred.
Right, so the actual acceptance and the conversation around the acceptance has to be done in the open process, but the negotiation strategy can be done.
In the closed
process.
session,
Yeah,
right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I think that, you know, before, we can do that on the 20th, and, you know, it's, tomorrow's the 10th, so about 10 days. We should have everything drafted, and then, we can go into closed session and have that reviewed prior to, you know, sending it over, so that'll save us a step of going back and forth, I think.
That would also assume that we have like environmental study back.
No,
Soil borings.
no, because,
Make contingent upon that.
exactly. I think that, you know, we can, go ahead and get that paperwork in, out there to them, and so that they know we're a serious buyer and everything like that. And then at the same time, we have that out at any time, and they know that too.
Any other thoughts, comments?
Who are you coordinating with, who are you working with in the office? You know, we know you're on a timeline, so, we don't wanna lose the information you've garnered. So, who are you working with, on this, so that, you know, you go, we're still in smooth transition?
Well, I mean, I had Dave sent in with me when I met with the engineering firm, but right now, no, I haven't passed this off to anybody as of yet. I mean, Robert, our city attorney, obviously will be involved when we start looking at the contracts and such.
Sure.
But, you know, if we haven't concluded that before I leave, I mean, obviously I can pass that on to, somebody else in the staff, like Dave or Sean or somebody.
Okay.
Sure.
I just wanna have that in place so we don't skip a beat.
Right, well, we're gonna meet on the 20th, and the whole council will get all the information from me at that time.
Okay.
And you're taking notes of your conversations and all that, management, right?
Sure, sure,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Right. Any other thoughts? Very good. Moving on then to the next item, unless
Well, we
there's
didn't
anything else.
talk
that you
about the
have.
proposed layout though, or, I mean, you talked about soil boring and purchasing, did you have anything on proposed layout?
Well, he asked me, where did we think that we were gonna put the building, and of course, Sarah and I have looked at a couple places, and she's placed it on the overlay, because, depending upon where you put it on the lot, that's,
I
what
think we
you
need
wanna
to look at
test
that
for.
because you don't want to test the whole lot for compaction. I mean, I don't know what you've been using for direction on what you're telling them to do for compaction, because if it's where the parking lot is, you need different compaction than if it's where the building is.
Well, I know that one of the things that jumped out to me was, when Sarah and I put those on the overlay, we thought that the Nelson property would be a parking lot. Because if there's problems that came up in the future, obviously that's not covered with anything. So we had put on the corner there, across from the county building, and obviously that also coordinates with the parking lot of the county, so if there's overflow, people would have that nearby. But the compaction rate, you're right, Mayor, I mean, it doesn't have to be, let's just say you're putting it where she's overlaying, right? So the Wodash property compaction rate doesn't have to
Right.
meet that standard, you're right. And Bolton and Mink asked me, where are you gonna place the building? And I said, you know what, I don't know. Because we've proposed different places, but I would suppose you could look at all four corners hypothetically. Although, when you look at visibility to, Highway 12 and the proximity to the county parking lot, where she has it placed right now makes the most sense. Unless you put it on, go south and put it on the other corner to the south. But that's the closest one to
To
the,
the southeast you're talking?
yeah,
Yeah.
southwest corner, that one,
Oh,
yeah.
just take it to the south, not, I thought you were talking
Um,
about going over to the Wodash property.
But if you heard me on the radio, my bi-weekly radio program,
Hey, you said 5,000 square feet, what's that all
it's
about?
very popular here in town. I
Well,
get a lot of notoriety
yeah,
for that.
people eat popcorn and listen to you.
So what I threw out there was, the footprint. Right now we've been talking, 10,000 square feet to 2 stories.
Right.
And so what I threw out there was, what if we went with 5,000 square feet, 4 stories high, to get that 20,000 square feet? That would be a more prominent building on the corner. That would give you more parking spaces and or green space. Now, it's just an idea. And that's one of the things that, when we go to the design process,
Well, that's gonna require sprinkling.
right? We could look at, have them do a rendering at the 10,000 feet and then also do, some at the 5,000 square feet. And
One of
then
the-
also do, a price comparison.
One of the priorities that we talked about was wanting 10,000 square feet so that we had efficiencies within the building. That ability to have more central space for staff workstations that could ebb and flow and change as departments change in size and scope. And so I would prefer that we be consistent in our message. If for some reason, when we're going through this whole process, it makes sense for us to do something different than that, fine, but I would prefer that we be consistent in what our evaluation was and our priorities were at the beginning.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, it was just something to, contrast and compare, and then you can kind of see that's the difference between the two. But anyway, that's kind of the corner there, Mayor, I think, for your question is where we're looking at.
Well, maybe what we need to do is maybe we need to decide as the task force, do we want to explore the 5,000 or do we want to stay with the 10,000 that we've been talking about all along? Because, I mean, it is totally different. I mean, if you go a two-story building, it's not required to be sprinkled because it's a B occupancy business. If you go 4 stories, it's automatically required to be sprinkled. You're gonna probably add $250,000 to $300,000 to your price, I'm guessing, right? Pretty close. So, and then you've got to look at water supply, but I would think water supply there is fine, I would guess. And then you got to take the space for the fire control room. You've got to have that. And 4 storage, you're going to have the added enunciation and stuff as well. Going from my history, from what I used to do, but I just might know some of that stuff. But, so you add additional expenses. So,
Is there an appetite to explore that?
I don't think it's bad to listen at this stage of the game. Once we put it in the ground, if we decide on 10, it's done. We're done. But let's listen to the reason why. Let's hear the reason why. I hear exactly what you're saying, continuity and flow, but do we have room for expansion? I don't know. I don't know. I just want to make sure that we vet it and make sure that's what we want, and then, but I just don't want to block us in and say, this is the way it is.
So the reason we're having this conversation right now is in regard to soil borings.
Mhm.
We would want to assume the 10,000 square foot footprint
Mhm.
for the soil borings purposes, right?
Yeah.
It would be foolish to go 5,000 square feet at this point and not,
no, your compactions are going to be
Yes.
different for a 4-story building there for a 2-story building. Your compaction rates have to be different, right?
Yeah. I thought we were just doing borings for the environmental, we're actually looking at the structural.
Yeah,
That's what he said at the meeting.
yeah, remember Jared asked about that, where we were gonna place the building?
Yeah, I
would
mentioned that
caution
on
you
Monday night.
to confine it too much. I would stick to more program and more bigger picture stuff, and you get your design professional on board, so they have some flexibility in defining your needs, because they're gonna come up with a lot of solutions that, you know, the board may not have thought of. And then they will do boring samples at those specific locations that they're planning on doing that scheme. Because, you know, you may end up not having it in that corner after you've heard some of the great ideas that they have. I just don't want you to double spend it.
so the purpose of the borings right now, you're saying, is for environmental purposes, and we would need to do additional boring samples based on the floor plan.
Correct. They would usually have a plan, and then they would come in and do borings right around where the footings are gonna be located. I don't think we've required like 12 in the past for our large multifamily projects. It doesn't give you any guarantees, because digging in the ground is your first big surprise. 'Cause you honestly don't know what's under there, but.
And what, we need to also look at, what's the history been on that block? And, back in the day, they used to knock down the old buildings, and they used to put all the clay bricks and everything from the building, and the timbers, and if there was an old oil, tank that they used to heat the building, it would just stay in the ground, and they would bury that in the basement.
That wasn't done here.
Well, I'm just saying, this is what I found in Chillicothe with a lot of the old 100-year-old buildings.
Right.
So we had to tear
Do
all
you know
that
the
out.
history of that
Right,
site, Mr.
Right, I know
Mayor?
the history of that site. I mean,
Okay.
that whole area of town was all, Merle Berkland did that whole area of town, a lot of that stuff. And your phase 1 and 2 should tell you that. The document you got, the 600-page document you got, will have to tell you all that, so.
Was there ever a building on this side of the site with the blue box?
I would guess there was, but that would be a Merle question.
So the reason I brought it up, my guess is that entire site is fill of one kind or another. And so your undisturbed soils.
Based on what?
If the whole thing was developed at some point or another in its history, they would refill the site after those buildings were removed.
Do you remember, Julie?
No,
That was always a parking lot when you were here?
Doug
as far as
seemed,
I can remember.
Doug Venture thought that he remembered it was a Nelson's electrical and automotive building there, supplier on that corner. But that was his last memory, but
Yeah, I mean,
What was the electrical supplier that was underneath the bridge farther to the east?
As far as to the east.
Yeah.
So the document that was provided by Marketing Concepts, what information does that have referenced in it? If it's a 600-page document, I don't know if that's literal or just a.
no, it really
That's what
is.
he told me yesterday.
And, but, no, I haven't gone through it, and there is some history in there, as the mayor says. I passed it on to Bolton and Mink for their analysis of it, but I haven't went through it myself, no, not yet.
Do we still have a copy of that?
Well, I printed out a hard copy, I
Okay.
have it electronically, and I have a hard copy.
So maybe that's where
So-
we need to start, is with that existing document.
So on the front of the rail yard, so going back in history here, back when I was a kid, Rudy, you might remember this too, wasn't the parking lot at the front of the rail yard, to the south? And that's where they brought in all the stuff that they loaded, and then they ran it through the terminal?
I think you're correct.
So, I think,
were you talking about the apartment, the phase 1 and phase 2? Is that- They should have something in the phase 1 and phase 2 about
History of ownership.
in their soil samples, their borings. They should have. We ran into Phil. You know, and we'll talk about what were the contents of those of that
Okay.
bill. They won't talk about compaction or
Right.
compressive
Right.
strength and stuff.
Okay. Well,
so
we'll
we're
go
gonna
through
have that
that.
back twice, then is what I'm hearing you say.
Well, yeah, if you want to do soil borings now for structural capacity of the site, you know.
But I thought you were recommending not to.
Right, I'm saying if you do that now, your building may not in fact end up being there and only doing it again. Unless you're absolutely sure it's gonna be in there.
I'm not.
So,
Any
yeah.
view?
No.
Yeah, so I would let the structural borings be down the road a bit.
I'm not understanding the reasoning of that.
Well-
To me, why would we delay the information that's gonna help us move forward?
On the compaction, you know, and I had one, we were doing an airport hangar and we did a compaction rate. Then the project got delayed and it was like a year later. We had to go back and do it again. And guess what? It changed because of the weather and everything like that. So we had to go back and put another level of dirt, 12 inches, if I remember right. So, you know, you want to test it right before you start the process. And same thing on that hospital building. We had to do it several times, and then before we put in, you know, concrete.
So I think what the concern, what I'm hearing the staff say, is that the concern is similar to what happened at Rice Park. I mean, they went in and did the borings. They thought they had everything right. When they made the first scoop, they realized it was wrong and then had to come back for the change order. I think that's kind of what you're trying to prevent, right?
What I'm understanding is, this is just conceptual, the location of the building. We haven't locked in the actual site, so to put the borings in there for the structure might be futile, a waste of money, because we might be moving it south or whatever, so.
Right.
We want to hear what the professionals have to say and their suggestions before we do that step. That's what I'm understanding.
I don't think it's just, it'll be part of the process.
It's just part of, yeah.
Okay, so, help me again. Okay, so if we did preliminary structural borings, then at least we would know at this point if it's viable for that corner. If we wait and think that's what we're gonna do. Then we're gonna do borings there, then it doesn't come up, well now, let's say it doesn't work. That soil isn't good. So then we do borings farther south, or then we do borings farther east. And then to me, that's a delay until we find the soils we want or what's acceptable for where the building could go.
But just so you understand, so if we want to place it where it is now, and we go in there and it's not the right compaction rate, or it's not the right material, that doesn't kill that project. It just means that you have to go in there and remove maybe the bad soil mix, and then put it in with good fill, and then you go in there and then with, the machinery and level it out and compact it,
Right?
basically. So, I've never moved a building because of the compaction rate. What I end up doing is I pay for
Right.
new fill and compaction.
And you widen out the footings.
Yeah.
Well, I would think we would wanna know that sooner than
Mm.
later to
Mm.
know what we can design for a building.
Well, he's just saying, I think what I hear Dave saying is don't do a compaction rate over the entire block. Just do it, if you're gonna do it now, then just do it on that one corner perhaps, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, if it makes you more comfortable to
It's
know
just
that
me.
it's
It's just-
a,
What is the cost of
I
having
was-
it tested in that corner?
I was just gonna say, compaction tests, are minuscule compared to the environmental.
Oh, okay.
The
Okay,
environmental has to go to a lab and everything. Compaction is not.
I just figured as long as we're digging, dig. Take care of
Yeah.
both, but, okay.
Well, and I think, what we could do, trying to cover what you're saying, I'm trying to be respectful of that, is we could take those compaction tests on the site, but then also take the compaction site tests for a different size, and just see where you go from there.
yeah, my experience with compaction is, it's not a major issue unless you've got some serious sandy soil or soil that has,
It's got an aquifer under there.
yeah, an aquifer, or you've got a lot of what's it called, living, a lot of plant type things in there, and then you've got to start putting piles in. That's, that's
Yeah,
the only
because
time.
everybody never know.
If it doesn't make sense, that's fine. I'm just trying to understand.
We'll cost it, and then I'll cost it out and see what
My
it's.
guess is that the compaction test, I agree with Ike, that the compaction test is gonna be minuscule,
Okay.
but your trip charge is gonna be more than your compaction test is.
and what is it, trip charge?
That's how much
What
it
do you mean
costs to
by-
come here.
Oh.
Got it.
They can
'Cause I'm
charge
guessing they-
$1,500 sometimes just for that.
I don't think they're that high here,
The
but.
common
Okay.
scary things I've run into are giant boulders and springs.
Going in the water.
Okay. All right, are we clear on that? Staff, you have your direction? Okay, all right, very good.
What did we decide?
You're gonna get a shovel. We're gonna get some worms, there's some shortage of worms in the
How far am I
fishing season.
digging down?
Yeah, so I'm gonna get the prices and everything, and then we'll look at some compaction and some, environmental borings.
If it doesn't make sense to do it now, I'm fine with that.
Well, let's see how much it costs. We used to have to pay.
I don't wanna have to
the
pay
city.
twice if that's the deal.
Yeah, so we'll get some good numbers.
Just asking questions.
Okay.
All right, very good, thank you. So you should have in front of you two different requests for proposals. One is of the Western Interceptor that was done in the past by the city back in 2017. And the second one,
And improvement tenants too.
we have not approved them in any of them.
We have,
But you're welcome to review them, and if you have any comments, let staff know. And the second one is a draft request for proposal that's more specific to what we have going on here. So, I'd like to, I'm guessing folks have not had time because they were sent out on such short notice to really go through it and study this document. So what I'd like to do is go through basically on a paragraph by paragraph level and provide feedback to it. Now, there are a number of blanks that are left in here. Some of that is to fill in a staff name or dates, and basically looking at staff to insert those blanks before it's completed. But if we could take a look at the scope of the work, and I'll just give you a few minutes to read through those paragraphs on the first page, scope of work, and then we can talk about how you feel about that.
Oh, we don't have, Janelle, I don't have, Dave and I have the wrong one, I think.
There's, should have two different ones.
Are they stapled together?
Catherine's got some extras.
That's the one they're looking at.
And the Western
I've got
Interceptor
that.
one too, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions, comments?
I've got a question now. When we talk about a construction manager as advisor, is that a licensed engineer?
Generally they are, yes.
And they will be working with us to make sure that it's structurally up to what we want.
So you'll see as it goes through here, we're asking for basically a resume of the individuals that will be on the team associated with this. So it's not gonna be a one-person deal, it'll be a company that will provide this service, and there will be a key person, but we're assuming that the organization has other expertise and things like that within them, that's even more than just an engineer, okay?
Right, the team, I
Yeah.
appreciate that, thank you.
Okay.
Did we have a CMA on the airport? Okay. And we had some issues.
We had a lot of issues.
Right,
It was all done in-house.
okay.
Is that remember right, Janelle?
Is the design TKDA?
They were the engineers that did the work on the runways and all of that, right? But the building was done by Everstrong Construction out of Redwood Falls, right? Memory serving me correctly? It is. So where we ran into problems were on the elevations, and then we ran into problems on the glass. Glass was installed.
All right.
I'm just trying to reinforce the importance of having somebody.
Well, given the transition that we have in staff, new staff coming on board, and all of the local option sales tax projects that are going to need to be done, we're really taxing our staff already. So I agree and value the idea of having a construction manager to lead us through this process and oversee things, make sure it is done right. So, very good, okay? Moving on then to the selection process schedule. And you can see that we've got some blanks left here, but we will set the timeline, and I'd like to leave that open to staff to be able to fill in what and it's unfortunate Sean isn't able to be here, Sean Christensen, because he'd be able to add some additional insight, but we thank everyone who was involved in putting things together very quickly for us to be able to address them and talk about them today. So But you can see the steps that are listed that we would want to go through in the selection process and during the schedule for selecting the construction manager.
Under project team, it says City of Wilmer. Is that then gonna be the, City of Wilmer then would be the owner?
Of the
And then,
property.
we would have our staff that would be in on that, is that right? Here's the suggestion.
Yes.
Okay. The documents provided, you can see the list there. And then the selection criteria.
Kathy, so,
Yes.
our staff put this together for us?
Was a collaborative effort.
No, I'm just curious how it came together.
What's the preliminary phasing plan?
Page are you on?
Number
Number?
number four of four. So preliminary sketch design package, preliminary phasing plan.
So this would just be a best guess on my part, but the different phases might be your envelope, the electrical,
Oh.
mechanical, all of those different tasks that need to be done, so.
That's construction scheduling.
Well, you've got this document over here. Okay, that's the one right there. And I think that this is mimicking number 4, number 5 here, is what I would think, but I don't know.
So you're bidding, that's basically what you're suggesting.
Yeah, because in the bid, they're gonna say how they're gonna do the work, right?
Okay.
An item that I would like to add to the selection criteria is asking the company to also provide photos of buildings that they have done, so that we can see the variety and the style that they have used.
So that would be number 11.
So photographs of related projects.
Recent projects, related projects,
Or
similar
relative,
projects?
maybe relative, it could be an office building, it could be a,
Let them
City
show
Hall.
us what they want to show us.
That's a good point. Let them drive the bus on what they feel is important.
Right.
so photographs of past projects.
Yep.
Because I think at our last meeting, Dave, I think you said that one of the things that you can tell a lot about is what they've done in the past.
Right.
And what the projects have looked like done in the past, right?
Yeah,
Like I
they are
said.
they are pretty consistent.
Just heard that from your last meeting.
So I don't know if I'm moving too quickly through this document or not, but are there any questions, concerns, or additions that anyone would like to make on this second page and going into the next page to complete the selection criteria? So on the Western Interceptor proposal, on the back page, there's an evaluation scoring process. And we're identifying key items in the selection criteria. I think that, for example, under the Western Interceptor one, it'll say firm experience 20%, similar projects 40%, project approach 40%. I'd like to ask staff to take a look at the criteria and incorporate that same kind of scoring method into those, considering the selection criteria and putting some kind of
Oh, you
weight
want it,
into it.
okay, so you want it weighted, okay.
Place that under number 4, right?
No, under the selection criteria, I thought.
And it might very well be, like this one has a proposed evaluation as a separate paragraph at the end. So we can add that to this document at the end of this document, but just noting that, I just want to note that we've got selection criteria already referenced.
Mhm.
We want to include that as that evaluation, as part of that evaluation. Does that make sense?
I think
I
so.
think what Ike is saying, I don't know what we're thinking about, but what you're saying is you thought it'd go after number 4 so that they're made aware of it right up front on what process that they're gonna be weighted on? Is that what you're saying?
Well, yes, everyone should, I mean, they can be aware of it, and then obviously the task force who's doing the evaluation. So that if we use, let's say, 1 through 5, and you can put the highest score, but if it's weighted only 10%, you see what I'm saying? With that understanding that that one particular criteria is not going to mean as much as another one that might have 50%. So, but my understanding is that Kathy was asking that number 5, where it has selection criteria, be weighted just like on this other document that had the technical evaluation score and how they have that weighted.
Yeah, we'll just want to include that into the evaluation.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I maybe muddied the waters by not waiting till we got to the end of the document.
Do you
Well,
want it, does
I
it
think-
make a difference too? Do you want it after
I
5,
think-
or do you want it at the end?
I think it should be after number 5, because that's talking about the whole process. And this is then giving the respondent the information on how they're gonna be scored. I mean, you know, I mean, here we have 20%, 40%, 40%. And
Right.
Ike was talking about 10%, 50%. I don't know if you were
I was just-
suggesting.
Just
using-
hypothetical.
Oh. So I mean, here you've got firm experience 20%, 40% similar projects, 40% understanding the project. I think if you put that in there, then I mean, staff can weight it whatever however they want, right? Isn't that what you just
Right.
said?
Right.
So staff would come with that recommendation on how that was scored, but I think it needs to be after number 5. And I think it is important to know where it goes, because if you have it in not a chronological, understandable order,
Yep.
I think that causes a problem. Am I wrong?
So between item number 5 and 6, we'll add proposal evaluation.
Right.
Okay, very good. Okay. Are there any other thoughts or comments regarding that second page and moving on through to the third page for selection criteria? Anything that you feel is missing?
And I would imagine our staff would be reviewing this and then coming with a recommendation in the next meeting, is that?
Yeah, we'll redo it, and I think Sean, you know, has more, like Kathy was saying, I think Sean's input's probably the most important on it, so I'll pass it on to him, and we'll have it for the next meeting.
Okay. The other question is if we could even just have them do that, send it out to us, and if anyone has any concerns.
Oh,
Is that
by email,
concern?
you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's
So we
not,
can keep
I mean, it
moving.
really,
Right.
it really is a staff function is
Yeah.
what it is, right?
Yeah,
Do we all agree it's a staff function?
To make the correction.
Right.
yeah.
We can, I mean, as soon as he gets it done, he can email it out to everybody, is that what you're saying? That's fine.
Yeah.
Sure.
Could we
Just
have that
handle
by
it by
next
email.
Wednesday? When
Yeah,
I- they-
he's
my-
he's in conference right now, today and tomorrow. I don't even know if he's on vacation this week. I have 4 people on vacation this week, so.
But my experience has been, you know, five years as the mayor now, is that if we don't put concrete deadlines down, things don't happen.
Well, I mean, we can make that a goal, but I'm just saying, I don't even know if he's gonna be here next week, so I'm checking to see if I'm gonna be here, so.
I think he, at least I know on Monday, he intends to be here because we have a meeting on Monday,
Yeah,
so.
we got the auction on Wednesday, the Public Works auction is, starts at 10, so.
Are we gonna have to vote on this on the 20th? No.
No,
Okay.
we won't have to vote as a council until the proposals have come
Got it,
in,
okay.
they've been evaluated, a selection made, and then it would be brought to the council before a contract is completed. Is that correct?
That's what I understand, is that
Yeah, that makes sense
Good
to me,
question.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right, hearing no other comments, let's take a look at number 6 in responses and due dates.
I've got a question. Let's say, you know, we take this and we look at it tonight, tomorrow, whatever, and we have a question. Pose it to you, submit it to you?
I'd say submit it to the entire task force.
Okay,
just do a reply all to it. Because
okay,
you have these in your email, you got them today, so.
okay, okay.
We didn't get them until, I think you sent them out about, what, 10:30 this morning? Janelle?
Yeah,
As soon as Kathy
something like that.
Yeah.
As soon as I got to
Yeah,
Janelle.
that's me.
Got back to Janelle. This is pretty fast work on everybody's part, so. Okay. Item number 6 goes on to the next page also, basically referencing that you received after the fact. Extensions.
I like that relevant experience, that's.
Item number 7, any questions, changes, or clarifications?
What page are you on?
Number 7 of this one, the one that's not numbered, the pages aren't numbered.
We're on,
You're going backwards, I think.
keep going.
Other way.
What's that you want me to do?
Are you ahead of us, Fernando?
Carolyn, okay.
Okay, speeding right through it. Okay. So the questions, changes, and clarifications?
Just a question for staff, do we have to add in here that any answers are sent out to everybody, or,
No, that's standard.
okay? Just remember, I'm working on state contracts that have to be spelled out, so,
It is spelled out,
okay.
right under where we have the email in front, it says email responses to such requests will be provided
Oh,
in
okay,
dispersal.
I'm sorry.
Yep,
And that'll be the staff name going in there. And who do you see this being, Sean?
My preference would be that we engage Bolton and Mink to help us through this process.
This is saying responses to the RFP, so
Right.
we've not assigned anyone to that yet. I'm assuming this should be a staff member, correct?
Well, it would be, it could be Sean, but I'm just saying that I wouldn't want to give him the responsibility of replying back to the RFP to anybody, to all the people that submit bids. I would put that service with like Bolton and Mink so that they could supervise that process, is what
So-
I'm saying.
Would Bolton and Mink need to come to staff to get the answer?
No. No, because they're gonna put the document together, is what I'm saying, and then they send it out for bid.
No. This RFP is
Yeah.
to select a company that would do that type of thing. What, you're talking about responding to the bids once we're in construction
No,
process?
no,
You
I'm
respond-
talking about even initially. You're proposing putting this out for a construction management, right?
Correct.
Right. I'm saying have Bolton and me put that document together and send it out. You can put that on Sean, but, you know, I think that there's enough on his plate right now. But he could, I mean, we can add it to his task, but to me, I would submit that giving it to Bolton and Meek would be more efficient.
So what I'm understanding, what I understood was Bolton and Mink would be working alongside with us.
There are engineers, yeah.
Right, they would be on our team already.
Yeah.
What's
And
their
you-
level? I'm sorry.
Thank you. And so they would be working alongside with us already. Now, you're saying then, but you're saying that this is to request what a Bolton and Mink might do.
Right, that's exactly right. So
So-
to have Bolton and Mink answering questions about a bid that they might be putting in themselves is a little bit odd.
Do you see that?
Bolton and Mink are not a construction company. Okay, so
So I
that,
looked at their website today, there's, because this came up last night at the local option sales tax meeting too. There's nothing on their website that says they have any experience on project oversight. So, I mean, do they or don't they? I mean, on
They
their
do.
site, there's nothing.
they do. They do. All I'm saying is, what I'm hearing from you is you like to do this in-house.
It seems to me that staff would be the best people to respond to the questions people have in regard to the RFP. And so if they're going to be answering the questions that come in, it's just a matter of having a group of I mean, it's, you send the answer out to those folks that have expressed that interest. That's just putting names into the email address, right? Staff are gonna answer the question. I think it's just as easy for them to put the addresses in for those interested parties as it is for them to put Bolton and Mink's address in. That just seems to be adding a layer that we don't need to add.
A lot of times, in smaller cities, the city clerk is assigned that job. And so, it's not just sending a response, okay, everybody's, we've had 10 people reply, so I send it out to 10 people. No. You send that out, and then you have to record that, and then there's usually a follow-up question. That's where you get the legality problems, is that, oh, I submitted my bid, but I didn't know I was supposed to include this portion of it, so now I underbid. And you did a change order through the whole process, and then you get into that whole mess. And so it becomes, it's not a full-time job, but it's not just a matter of just replying to emails. And it takes somebody through the process that understands when they're answering these questions and how they answer those questions. And it should be somebody that's involved in the construction process on a regular basis so they understand the question. That's what I'm saying, and that's why I'm saying at Bolton and Mink, generally an engineer answers those questions. Even the city clerk, if she's running basically the diary for the project, she'll get that answer from the engineer. So that's why I'm saying it's a little more complicated, and I hate to put that on Sean and Kelsey to try to answer all this, log it all in, make sure everybody gets a copy, then halfway through the process, here comes another company and they want back copies of everything that's been submitted, you know, to date. It can get kind of complicated.
So when we have done past projects like the Western Interceptor, has staff not been the one to manage that?
Well, on some of these projects, yeah, it's been totally in-house.
I mean, I thought that, I thought that's what we hired a project manager. I mean, now I find out that the project manager only working on parks, you know, I thought that's why when we hired the project manager, that they were gonna oversee all this stuff. But I was just told this week that our project manager that we hired to do project management isn't really doing project management, he's doing parks. So, you know, and I brought up the issue of, you know, Miller Park, which, you know, was supposed to be done 2 years ago, come July, still not done. So I'm confused, I'm really confused. I mean, I think, I mean, I've done some due diligence since last night, and I think it's a waste of money. I really do.
What's a waste
What
of
being-
money?
Having Bolton and Mink do this.
Well,
You know, the research that I did, just from the meeting last night till today, is they're gonna charge 3 to 5%, probably closer to the 5%. And so you're gonna add 5% of cost, well, let's say, take the conservative side, 3%. You're gonna add 3% to your project. We could hire a staff member at far less money.
Ask the project manager.
Right, as project manager, who I think, who I thought we were hiring when we hired a project manager. So,
Councilman Brown.
Thank you. You know, we want to do it correctly. Bowman Minks has the tools in place to know the rules and regulations to do it correctly. If we hire somebody, they're gonna have to be up to speed. They have to know the process. I don't, now Bolton Minks do we use them currently?
for engineering services, correct?
I kind of hear where, I mean, yeah, we're not building a 27-story tall building, but we want to build it correctly, and we want to make sure all the players that come to us can get the answers they need. And I'm guessing Bolton and Mink's going to have those, and if they don't, they're going to have to come to the council and say, hey, we've got this issue, how do you want to handle it? I just think that it's a service we should be.
Can I clarify, are you saying it's 3 to 5% of the cost of the project to get this bidding for the request for proposal for a construction manager out?
No, that's for the overall, so they would, what you're proposing is that they would manage the whole project, correct?
and owner's rep, I did a $40 million hospital project. The owner's
Ours was
rep,
80.
the owner's rep cost $150,000 for 18 months. That's not 3 to 5%.
No, it's not.
So we agree we need a construction manager, and that's what this request for proposal is, right? That's the 3 to 5% you're talking about.
Right.
Okay. So we agree that we need that already. That was in the resolution, that's been passed by the council already. So what the question is that we're trying to figure out right now is who's gonna answer the questions that come to the city in regard to this particular request for proposal. And I would just recommend that it be staff. I don't think that we need to have an outside company do that. We do this all the time on other projects, and it just seems to me, it makes sense to me that we have our own staff answer the questions regarding what we're looking for in this document.
You know, what does the staff think? I mean, I think you guys got enough on your plate, but is there something, I mean, what do you think?
RFPs are fraught with legal issues and a lot of technicality. So having a dedicated professional doing it is, especially on a high visibility controversial project like City Hall, anything to make it smoother and less of a headache, I would recommend. And it is a lot of money. RFPs are a lot of money.
I think if Sean is the name that you're thinking about putting on it, I think Sean, I think the question is for Sean,
Makes sense to me.
Okay.
that, at least that would be my
So would you all feel it would be appropriate if Ike has that conversation with Sean when he is available, and just touch base with the mayor and myself afterwards in regard to how that conversation goes, and then we move forward?
Do we think that's a reasonable expectation? I already see Sean plate really full. Is this too much to expect that he would, I don't understand, I guess I'm not familiar with, the amount of questions that will come in on an RFP. It seems very detailed and straightforward to me, so I'm not, I don't know what kind of questions will come in.
Sometimes you can have, I've seen on some projects, 20 questions in 2 weeks. Other projects, as of course, the more complex the project, you can have 150 questions, okay? And you could have 10 to 20 people bidding. And then they drop in and drop out. Some of them, after a while, drop out, some of them drop back in. And so, the key thing to me was always the legality part of it, because sometimes, you know, it is in this world today, they come back, and if they don't get the bid, then all of a sudden we got a legal suit, and somebody, and then you gotta settle that, and so forth. But back to your question, the reason I give the recommendation is that, you know, Sean is our public works engineer, and he has a full plate every day. And as we go through this process with this $30 million local option sales tax projects, the curling facility on top of that, and the city hall, that we use Bolton and Mink. Since I've been here, I've been trying to establish a regular relationship with them. I've instructed staff to do that. And, you know, we need to utilize their services on these extra projects, because this is not part of the daily work of building a new building every year. It's not. And Sean, expertise is not in construction building, it's in public works. That's what he's been doing. You look at basically his city career, and that's what he's been doing, that and planning. So I'm just saying that as we go through this process, does it cost more money? The things that I'm stipulating, yes. A lot of times the things that I'm also would advocate them because they pay for themselves in savings. And it's just been my experience over the years in my own career and watching other government agencies, whether it's a school district or someone else, when they cut corners, sometimes it comes back to bite you.
So we'll have
So
further
using the numbers that
conversation.
Ike shared with us, I mean, it would cost us $15,000 for the city hall. I'd have no problem spending $15,000. But, I mean, if that's the number we end up with, but I'll hold it to that number, because that's the number that was quoted in this meeting.
Well,
So, I
that's-
mean, and that's what we have to do. I mean,
that's,
we can't just be throwing money around.
no, well, that's not gonna be an accurate number. I don't know how you did your math on it, but if you did 1-to-1, but they're two different projects. And Bolton and Mink is gonna charge us by the hour, okay, on this project. Last night it was proposed that we have someone from Bolton and Mink go to every subcommittee meeting. They're not gonna do that for a flat rate. They're gonna charge that at an engineer's rate. So that, it also depends on what you ask of an owner's rep or a construction manager at your final cost. So you can write down 20,000, you can write down 10,000. Doesn't matter, the rate will come in at what the bid price is, or, you know, what the expectations of what we ask of them.
I don't know that we're gonna answer this question here today. I think we need to have the conversation that was suggested, and I would just ask that you touch base with the mayor and myself. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
And with how that conversation goes, and we'll insert that name for the document that's sent out for folks to be able to review. Councilmember Oscar.
I just have one quick question, just to clarify. So Bolton and Mink, what you were starting to question, they would not be putting in to be a CMA because they're not a construction firm.
They don't wanna be the construction manager. I mean,
Okay.
could they do
That's all I
that?
needed.
No. And that's the other thing is, they're gonna do what, with our relationship, we ask them to do.
Okay.
If we ask them, do you wanna be the construction manager, I'm sure they could put that package together. What I discussed with them this week was about being an owner's rep, especially when it came to all these projects over the next 10 years. And I think that, you know, that's what, you know, the council needs to utilize.
Councilmember, oh, were you done?
I'm done.
No,
Thank you.
Thank you. I was wondering, you know, the conversation with Sean, why not bring in the city planner with that conversation, and Ike and you, Kathy, and the mayor? Why not have that team approach? Is that,
One, I don't
I'm
understand
talking to
your
Sean
question.
about his thoughts about being the go-to guy, you know? Is that what we're discussing?
We had a conversation this week already about his workload, when he told me that he was asked to draft the RFP. So I had this conversation with him already this week.
Well, it sounds like it's gonna happen again. That's what I'm
Well,
understanding.
he will do what we ask of him,
Right.
and just like myself. I mean, if you ask me to do it, then that's part of my job, we'll do it. I'm just making the recommendation. It's, you know, if the council wants to keep it in-house, we can certainly do that. But I'm just making that recommendation.
Okay. Can we move on?
Sure.
Thank you.
How are we
Number-
deciding this?
The conversation will be have the staff, and then we'll discuss it between the three of us and put the name in that is, makes more sense, okay?
Okay, I'm just gonna weigh in. I just think with all of, what Ike was saying, with all of the building projects we have coming on, I think we're gonna need Bolton and Mink to help with all these projects. There's no way Sean can do these.
The other thing we do is we could give him an assistant if he needs. That's another discussion.
Well, Curly's leaving too, you know, Curly has been working part-time for us, and he's been picking up, you know, a big load this year. But Curly has basically given notice that, you know, before the summer ends, right? Is that my understanding?
May
Janelle?
20th of this month, his
Oh,
contract is up.
even earlier.
He just told me
That's
that
in
this
10
morning.
days.
Okay, all good to know, thank you. Number 8, simple proprietary information. Number 9 being a disclosure, 10 statutory requirements. I'll let you review those 3 quick like, they look pretty straightforward.
Kathy, I had a question on, I'm sorry to go way back to the very first page. In the first paragraph, is it another fill in the blank where it says the project will consist of, it's about the middle of the first paragraph.
On the first page, so under scope of work,
Yeah, well, yes.
First paragraph, third line, about the middle.
Project will be completed.
I think that's a big thing to know what project will consist of.
thank you.
Should there be, yeah.
So,
I thought that was referencing it, but that, we'll
yeah,
ask
that's,
staff to look at that too, okay. Thank you. Okay, any questions about 8, 9, or 10? Being requiring insurance or liability, automobile, workers' comp liability, professional liability. And the RFP submittal information. To include a cover letter, profile of the firm. The relevant experience. Any questions about any of those items? Cover letter, firm profile, and relevant experience. You asking me to screen read too
I think the key is, like Fernando said earlier, that if something comes up, we have to have the ability to have input. Right?
Right, yeah.
much? Then the project team. Asking for a resume. Client references. Spelling out some specific roles there. Section 5 is asking for the firm's financial, insurance, and legal information, including bonding. Other projects that they've managed. Number 6 is their safety program. Asking for any accidents that have resulted. Number 4 says a firm's, provide firm's experience modification rate. That EMR, that's the experience modification rate, and that is their workers' compensation rate. Okay? Section 8.
Should be section 7.
Oh, yes, it should. Very good. Thank you. So, section 9 should be section 8. And section 307, references 8, is the project approach. How they're going to address the challenges and mitigate them. Approach to estimating each stage of the project. Approach to reconstruction services. Experience with public entity projects. Knowledge with bidding. Any questions or concerns about any of that? Section 7 or 8, however it's numbered. And section 8 being the fee proposal.
When you go to redo this, make sure you number the pages.
Okay.
No, it's just, because, it's just.
No, I agree, sure.
When the
This is
questions
just a
come
rough
in.
draft.
I understand
Yeah.
that, It's just so that it, I'm not criticizing, just, just so it's easier next time around.
Is there anything people feel is missing, or that you want to see in being able to make this decision? That's really the question. We want to make sure whatever you're looking for is included.
I think one thing that I want to mention is also what Bolton and Mink could do is let's say we get 5 of these. Bolton and Mink would analyze this prior to the council doing their review. And then they would scrutinize the answers that are given, so that if somebody tries to squeak through, they're gonna catch things like that. Or they're gonna know, oh, did you know that they built a bridge last year that collapsed? You know why? Because they didn't have safety inspectors on board. They're gonna have that kind of knowledge. I don't have that. Sean doesn't have that. That's the kind of thing that you're gonna pay for, that they can pick up. And then they can also give you recommendations, and so that when, let's say we get 10, we're gonna pick like 4, and we're gonna invite them in to come and give presentations to the full council. And let the full council review that, and they each give a presentation. You put like 20 minutes. They'll usually go through a PowerPoint to show their projects that they've done. They'll have their staff on board. Sometimes you'll get 5 or 10 of them in there. And they'll say, I've got Mr. Smith here. He's a local guy. He's been in this area, and he's been involved in these 5 projects that you've seen in this community. That's the kind of thing, and then you can answer questions back and forth. You'll have somebody from the Twin Cities come in and say, look, we're not local, but this is what we can provide, and this is our expertise. And you can compare and contrast, so.
Is this gonna be vetted by the attorney?
But it has to be. Yeah, 'cause
Okay.
there's stuff he's been adding. in,
Right,
you know.
I was best, as best I can right now.
This is-
Yeah,
This was very messy, and I apologize for that.
no,
but
not at
it
all,
was-
it's good.
We had the meeting scheduled, we didn't know what today's meeting was gonna look like based on Monday night's meeting, so here we are doing the best that we can in a short period of time.
It's a good start.
It's way
Yeah.
better.
Nu- Number 5 that we have is a tour of City Hall and the public office buildings. What I would like to propose is that we schedule a time to go and look at other communities, city halls that have maybe been built in the last 5 years, any other professional buildings, such as banks, that kind of a thing, that we could be able to walk through, take some photos. I would see us all getting on a bus of some kind, going to the site, taking a tour, and then as we move from that site to the next site, we can capture, what did you like about this building? And what do you not want to see us do that you saw in this building? And so when we would finish with the day, we'd have some really good input to give us feedback to help with the schematic and the design of the building. That at least again, we would have some common vision and some kind of feedback. Not that we're saying we want, not that we're going to design it that day, but at least having our folks that are going to do the design join us, they'd have a sense of what you're doing, right? Kind of like on the Property Brothers, when they take people through the mansion, right? And say, this is what I like and this is what I don't like, they get a sense of what the person's gonna want, right? So what their tastes are, what their styles are, what their goals are, and it'll help them out in having some kind of vision for what we wanna do.
Kind of like Breda Homes.
Yes,
You're looking at
Right.
ideas that you're.
Right.
You'll see very traditional projects all the way to extremely contemporary.
right. Councilmember Osmus.
At some point, and I know it's gonna be included in there, that the staff have some input about what they would like to see, but they may have some very realistic, common sense ideas that I would like to see early on instead of later in the phase. I just think of when the law enforcement building was built, there wasn't a lot of input from the on-the-ground people who got to work in it. It was all above. And I think they might have, I want them to have some ownership and know that they've had input and that they're, what they feel is a good working environment.
I think the design professionals could be charged with.
They generally, yeah, and sometimes they don't, I know what you're saying,
Yep.
and so it's later on, and then you design the operating room in the hospital, and you never ask the doctors.
Right.
Who, so, you can't always just rely upon the expert, and you're totally right, and I would insist upon having, at least some group meetings in the beginning, and so, some concepts, and so that people can say, I really want this and I really want that, and we don't have storage, that's always the,
Yeah.
you don't realize the storage we need, so we definitely need and it has to be locked, that kind of thing. And then, generally the architect will go to each department and we'll talk to them about any specific needs, so we'll definitely do that.
So would you all be willing to find a day? We can send out a doodle poll, but I would wait until after we know who our construction manager is. I think it would be important for them to join us on that tour. But are you willing to give a day to be able to go and do that? Probably mean a vacation day for us.
Yeah. I'm thinking that we might, rather than just go, let's go to Redwood and let's go over to Brainerd and down here, I'm almost thinking we're gonna probably have to go up to like the highway corridor towards like Elk River or something like that to get, otherwise we're gonna need more than one day. And maybe that's a bad idea, and I don't know who you talk to about saying, okay, these are buildings we wanna see.
The league, I talked to the league last year, and I was asking them, and they can give us some suggestions, because they know, they've been to a lot of the places. Yeah.
You can also scatter them on a map and then decide which ones to do, and you can just do an itinerary, kind of
Yeah.
impact.
Right.
So we'd ask staff to collect that information and put the tour together,
Sure.
but we'd need to find a date that works for everyone.
Yeah.
Okay? Is that good?
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Okay?
So what ballpark, what month are we talking?
June.
Okay.
So the 18th through
Maybe
the
the end of
20th. Yeah, 18th through the 20th, I'll be in Washington, and Dave as well, but other than that, I'm good. In June.
Got
And
Wilma
we'll-
Fest right in there too.
Right,
But
yeah.
yeah.
I'm interested in that.
We'll have
What
to
dates
send
are
a
Wilma
doodle poll,
Fest?
so-
What?
What dates are Wilma Fest?
Start
The
with
parade's the
20th.
22nd, but the, yeah,
So it's the week
Yeah, the-
before.
block party on the 20th.
Okay,
The other activities on Wednesday, the 19th.
okay.
Coordination is on the 22nd.
Okay. Okay. Then another question I have that I thought I'd ask the group is in regard to the video recording. I understand why we would have video recorded because of, as we were trying to find the location. I'm just wondering if people think that it's necessary that we continue to do this. We have staff's time for recording it. I mean, is this something that the general public wants to view or not view it? Do you think that's important?
I think it's important. It's a service we have. People want a transparency. Is it probably boring? Sure. But hey, you know what? Let them look at it. I mean, if they need to sleep with something and they want to sleep with this, that's fine. That's
I
my
just know that we're
opinion. I'm
setting-
not,
More so than a video recording?
yeah.
An audio
But you-
recording?
Audio.
I'm sorry, audio.
Because we do set a precedence then for all of the other projects that are gonna be taking place related to the local option sales tax. And so will we be recording all of this sort of a thing for all of those also? But
I think we've all seen the email. We've gotten emails from the constituency that talking about transparency, so I don't know. We can talk about it, think about it. I know what you're saying.
yeah. And maybe we just ask Rudy if you would check the viewership and see if people are actually watching it and have an interest in it. And if they do, then maybe we continue. And if there's no one looking, then why, right?
Why, right.
Okay, all right. Okay, we'll continue videotaping for the time being.
Is it a hardship for you, Rudy, at all?
No.
All right, okay.
In fact, I like being a part of it.
Okay then, there we go. Maybe that answers it alone. Is there anything else for the good of the order?
When is the next meeting going to be?
I think it's the 23rd, isn't it, Kathy, on your timeline?
Are you gonna revise the timeline now that, or are you gonna wait till after the construction
I
manager,
think
Bolton
we-
maker?
Yeah.
Let them have some input.
So what would we be doing at our next meeting is the question I would have.
Well, I guess I'm a little confused because I thought that we were going to select the firm to bring to the council, and I had just suggested that they go in front of the council and do their proposals. So I think we need to decide, are we gonna do it, or are we gonna have all these proposals in front of the council?
Yeah, I missed that.
So-
That was what was said.
Yeah,
You
said that-
said possibly 4, there, Bolton May could narrow it down to 4 that would present to the full council.
I think that,
Cause
we
that's
can
not the
call-
way we've traditionally done things. here.
Right.
No.
I mean, we could call a special meeting and then they could all attend that and then give their briefings. Or you can, have the task force do it and then bring that recommendation to the full council. I'm just saying that a project this big, I mean, this is the city hall, especially this one, they would all probably want to be as informed as possible, most informed as possible. So that would reduce any, hangups when it came to voting it in or selecting the firm.
I'm a firm believer that the task force, regardless if it's the RFP or if it was bringing a site or whatever, but the task force should be making a recommendation to move forward to the council. That's what our purpose is. And I would recommend that we do that as a task force. make our recommendation and move that forward. Do people want to see actual presentations versus the written documentation that comes? Do we want to see a presentation?
I think of your finalists, you do for sure. I mean,
Okay.
and I don't know if that ends up being 4 or 2 or 1 or, oh, it would be 1, hopefully more than 1. It's fine. I mean, I mean, it would be nice to get a lot of responses, but, you know, traditionally, we haven't. I mean, when you take a look when the hospital was built, I mean, that was an $80 million project. We didn't have a whole lot of people. When you take a look at the wastewater treatment plant, $89 million project. You know, do you remember how many people had responded on that? I mean, maybe, you know, 4, 5, 6 is all of us. I mean, you know, so I mean, so we have done big projects. I mean, you take a look at, you know, Caris Health with the surgery center. You know, I mean, that was a fairly small response pool. You take a look at the, take a look at the rehab center, that was $7 million, that's bigger than this project. You know, those 2 projects have been done within the last 3 years.
Thank you. I was just gonna say, it's good to see who the players are, how we're going to interact with them, and hear, you know, see what their language is, their body language, or, I think that's important, like we said, finalists. You know, we wanna be able to work, you know, and like the mayor said, we might only get 4, you know.
And maybe it's a question we ask the council. We just go to the council and say, you know, this is how we're gonna move forward. Do you wanna be there or not? You know, I mean, we're gonna have, you know, you can have a new administrator. You know, hopefully we'll have a new, assistant engineer soon. You know, I don't know where it is in the process, but I mean, we've got all these things that are in the works, that are taking council members' time. You know, I mean, Janelle, before the meeting started, said that, you know, Councilmember Maskey is feeling crushed for time already. You know, we had the public meetings on the City Hall project, and we have 1 council member that didn't show up to any of the meetings, and I'm assuming that's a time issue. And if you put more time on it, what's that gonna look like? Is my concern. So I almost think we have to ask the council what they want us to do. I think that's the wrong thing to say.
Maybe we, as long as it's a noticed meeting, we invite anyone who any of the council members who want to attend to be able to come and listen to the presentations and provide their input. So it'd be a special meeting that would be for that purpose. How do you feel about that?
I mean, they, as a council, we all know that we're invited to any of our meetings. But this would be specific, yes.
Yeah,
but-
because as a task force.
Special reach out.
It would-
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right,
otherwise,
exactly.
those
Yeah.
council members would be expected to sit in the side wings as we are the other committees, but this would say we welcome you to the table.
Correct.
And be a part of that input.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay, that's what we will plan on doing. Is there any other work that we as a task force need to do before this RFP is really put out there and decided to, or we get the responses back? Then I would say we do not hold that next meeting on the 23rd, so thank you for that question. Go ahead.
Is that May 23rd?
Correct. So we'll cancel that meeting and we'll let staff get their work done in regard to this, get it sent out, and then we'll, depending on the due date that is determined, that will set our next meeting date. Sound fair? All right. Anything else for the good of the order?
40 seconds over.
What do you know? Meeting adjourned.
Here, that much, ooh, that much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Tough, rough, but